I can say is I have a clearer and brighter outlook on the world since Wednesday afternoon.
Yes, you do. Look at those tats.
Oh.
Badass. George, can I ask you a couple questions on camera? I got a couple things I want to talk to you about. Well, first of all, can I show the people the break room at Gruhn Guitars? Can I show them? Is it okay? This is where all the shit happens, right?
This is where everything gets worked out.
Yes, where it all happens.
Well,
George,
claim all the crime.
look at this beautiful view of 8th Avenue we got out here. Look at that. And I was just asking George about see that tweed amp sitting out there? That used to be what?
Well,
the sprinkler system.
Still is for the sprinkler system. It's just that I thought it would be more interesting looking like an amp.
And that was your idea.
Yeah. And I mentioned that to the design painter
Right.
who did our mural, and he said that rather than paint it, it would be a lot easier
Right.
to just do it as a wrap. So all he had to do was photograph it, print it, and just put it on.
Right. But we're considering down the road, because it got ruined by some knucklehead putting graffiti on
Yeah,
it.
it's just faded a little where they got the graffiti off, so we might convert it to
Brown.
a high-power twin.
The high-powered twin, okay. Yes.
What's that?
So we could do it as a brown.
No, is that when you did?
Yeah,
Make it a brown amp, and then eventually go to the blackface.
See, right now it's a tweed amp, but on the tweed amp, the controls are on the top.
Right.
So that it doesn't, you don't
Right.
see as much. If we do it as a high-power
Right.
twin,
Right.
then you see the grill work, but you also see the knobs, all the
course.
controls, and I think that might look neater.
It would be cool. We're hanging out today. I brought Greg some delicious pollock paneer
Oh yeah.
and some medium spiced chicken tikka masala from this amazing place in Brentwood called Maaaaaaaany.
Awesome.
And how is it?
It's incredible.
Where are we at? All right, good.
Thank
you
you.
ever tried that place, Joe?
Oh yeah.
Maaaaaaaany? It's good, right?
Dude's killing man.
All right, so a couple things. Remember when we were in here 2 days ago, and I was saying most overrated guitar in the history of guitar. I want to know, if you don't mind, for the viewers, you're George Gruhn after fucking A, man. Your opinion, the most overrated guitar of all time, and I also want to know the most underrated, because I don't want it to be all negative. This is a negative and positive.
You know, when it comes right down to it, there's not a whole lot of things that are just considered fabulous that don't really sound good.
Right.
I think,
Right.
though, that when it comes to electric guitars, the Vintage Guitar Magazine now has their Hall of Fame, and they included the S.G. Gibson as being something for the Hall of Fame, and I've never felt that the S.G. is a great guitar.
The SG.
Are physically fragile. Not only do the peg heads break, which can happen on any guitar with a peg head that slants back, but the neck joint is notoriously weak, especially on guitars that have two pickups. If it has a one pickup model, like the Junior or the TV, with the pickup in the bridge position, then the neck tenon goes far enough into the body that it's reasonably stable, but you still have a neck that's long enough to be a bit rubbery.
Right.
Because especially since SG necks are not as thick as a Les Paul neck.
Right.
So if you put any pressure on it, it goes out of tune. But if it has two pickups, the routing for the rhythm pickup cuts through so much of the neck tenon that it doesn't take much of a tap for the neck to just break.
Yeah.
And the body breaks. The other thing is the way the SG is designed with the routing for the controls, the output jack is right there at that cavity, and if somebody yanks on the cord, the body is so thin there that you can crack off and break off the whole end of the body.
How many of those have you fixed in your life?
Some.
plenty. Yeah.
Yeah, more broken peg
Well,
heads.
the 335 sort of suffers
Well,
the
you
same
see,
melody.
bro-
Really,
you see probably more neck joints breaking on an SG than you see of broken peg heads.
Yeah, as a repair guy,
The-
most
The
broken.
weakest point on a double pickup SG is the neck joint.
You're right.
Yes.
That's by far the most problems are going to be on an SG
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
neck joints.
That's-
You're right. You're
But
right.
you also see a moderate number of them that somebody steps on the cord and they break off the end of the body.
You're right.
You'll never see that on a Les Paul.
That's yeah, it's built different.
But you will see it on SG. So you have 3 break points, plus the body is too thin to have really good meaty sound
So-
and good sustain.
I agree with you. With
So
that
it's a
said,
lousy design.
agreed. My main guitar is an SG.
Right.
I
Right.
love
You
it.
got to
It's a
admit
great
they do
guitar.
have some charm. I know. I remember years ago.
They have charm, but it doesn't have the tone.
Right. It does.
An
Well-
Explorer has better tone.
Yeah, but like
An Explorer has better tone than a V. Also.
agreed. But like for me, it was Tony Iommi all day
Yeah.
long. Tony Iommi
Fuck
from
yeah.
Sabbath is
Yeah.
my guy. He's a tone monster. That guy,
Yeah,
the founding, the godfather of metal. You know,
Right.
and that's a
Well, the
and that's
Godfather of Metal uses either rack-mounted effects or pedals or both, so that the tone of the guitar is highly modified, and you can make damn near anything sound right if you put it
He
through
did
enough
plug it into some
electronics.
bone-crushing distorted amps. I'll
Yeah.
tell you that.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
old Laney Super Group and the old Orange. You know.
and that was good enough for Sabbath. I mean, it's a 4-piece
Yeah.
with one guitar player.
Yeah.
But,
And there was never a need
Yeah.
for a second guitar player.
No,
I mean, it was
man.
nice and
but
full and
well,
huge.
the fact is, though, when I still grew up
I
in
get-
an
I get
era
you.
when the rig was such you could carry it from your car to the stage, everything you were going to use in
Right.
one trip.
Right.
Buddy Guy played at University of Chicago, Mandel Hall, 1,500 seat auditorium. He had a 410 basement and he had a 57 Strat, and he had a chord. That
Okay.
was the rig.
Yeah.
And to play in a 1,500 seat hall, there was no amplification of his guitar other than the 410
Oh, yeah.
basement,
Right.
which is plenty loud enough for a 1,500 seat auditorium,
Agreed.
at least the
Agreed.
way he was playing. But there were no pedals,
Yeah.
no effects,
Nothing.
just guitar, chord, and amp. And he could walk from his car
I
to
get
the
it.
stage in one trip with everything.
Right.
And he probably didn't pay more than $75 for the guitar or for the amp at that time.
Yeah, but I mean, that was going back a long time ago.
Well, that was in the mid-1960s.
Right.
That,
Then we got roadies, man. Then roadies
you
changed
didn't
everything.
need a roadie at that
Right.
time. But I can tell you that I know what those things cost back then because I was already dealing guitars out of
Yes.
my college apartment.
Right.
Uh,
I tell you.
I got there was my apartment was at 61st and Ellis,
Okay.
and it was about the last building on the street where there were any college students or white folks. After that, the neighborhood was solid black. 63rd Street, there were pawn shops and the L train.
Yeah.
To get this.
This is so good that you have this.
Hello, Jack.
All right, come back here, brother. So, I love this man.
How's that food, Joel?
Anyway,
Was it pretty nice?
63rd
Joel
Street.
Watrous.
Yes.
So we had this conversation. So
Yes.
I pick I'm with the Rickenbacker,
Right.
and not because
It's most overrated.
most overrated in my
Yeah.
opinion, because
Yeah.
it's the instrument that is by far the worst playing. You know what I mean? I always look at guitars like cars and how they drive,
Right.
and you want everything to drive like a Ferrari,
Yeah.
right?
They can be
Rickenbacker
challenging.
is never going to be more
Yeah.
than a dynamite tractor,
Yeah.
you know. But it does that thing, and I
Yeah.
respect it, you
Yeah.
know. But and never once am I, and I'm sure there's somebody out there that's going to, you know, Google Storm and find somebody
Yeah.
that was a monster player that played all up and down the neck.
Yeah.
That used the Rickenbacker. I can't think of one. Can you?
Right. Nah,
Generally,
they're.
the Rickenbackers
Yeah.
that are sought after are 12 strings.
Yeah, it seems
And
that way.
they did that one trick very well,
Right.
but they weren't versatile.
Right.
And
that's why I gave it a knock. That's why it's not.
they also made good lap steels.
Agreed, but you know.
The Bakelite lap steel was good. The frying pan sounded good, but as soon as you got from one temperature to another, since it was all metal, they went out of
Right.
tune.
There you go.
But
Is it true that all these stories I've heard about Les Paul didn't like the SG design? and insisted that they take his name off it eventually. Is that all true?
I don't think, well, I've been told he never did like the SG design, but the other thing that was happening at that time is his career was almost dead.
Okay.
And when he and Mary Ford divorced, his popularity went way down. And when it came time, yeah, I was going to get back to it real quick, and then I'll get back to the Les Paul thing. But I had my apartment 61st and Ellis. The pawn shops were on 63rd. I was in one of the pawn shops. This would have been around 1965 or 6. I bought a 57 Stratocaster. It looked brand new.
Yeah.
No, he's good. He's good.
Of course, this was 57 to
Sure.
1965 or 6, was not that many years. It looked brand new. It was black, original, and gold-plated hardware.
Holy cow.
And I spent $75. That was their asking price. I got it. So when I say that Buddy Guy probably paid $75 for his Strat, he might have paid only 50.
Right.
But they weren't expensive back then.
Right.
And electric guitars were not all that collectible until Bloomfield.
Yeah.
Bloomfield made white boys realize that old guitars might sound good for R&B, and that was an interesting form of music, because when I first started at University of Chicago, the Folklore Society had no electric guitars permitted on any of their shows. They ignored the whole South Side scene of R&B until Bloomfield played with Butterfield. And then all of a sudden, wow, they discovered all that. And then they started having electric guitars in the folk festivals and in some of their concerts.
Wasn't that Dylan?
Yeah,
Bloomfield played for Dylan, but that was after he was playing with Butterfield.
Yep.
Got it. I thought Dylan was the one that walked up there with the Strat blowing minds.
Yeah, that
was a big deal.
send some shockwaves.
You know, Bloomfield was playing a telly, a pre-CBS telly, and it was, in fact, even at Newport, I think Dylan played a Strat, but Bloomfield was playing the telly.
Yeah.
And Dylan's playing was not the electric guitar playing that was notable.
Oh, no, of course.
It was what Bloomfield was doing. Bloomfield changed the whole thing, where all of a sudden R&B became a big deal with people
Did you ever
who
meet
ignored
him
it before.
in the old days? Did he ever come in?
Did I know Bloomfield? I knew him quite well.
Did you?
When I first met him, he was an acoustic player.
Right.
He went to University of Chicago High School.
Yeah.
His parents were quite well off. He was well educated, but he decided not to go the family way. But Bloomfield was an absolute scholar of music.
Was he?
And was a phenomenal player.
Nice fella? Nice enough fella?
He was a very interesting guy.
Yeah.
You know, come to think of it, going back in this conversation,
Yeah.
I said that thing about Iommi. When did he played Greco's, didn't he? Or with that English company that made the SGs?
Shit, I don't
Meaning,
know.
what, like, I know. Going back in the day, I've seen him play Gibsons.
Right.
You know, in some of the videos, Paranoid, whatever it might be, he definitely used Gibsons.
They're always highly modified. The oldest video I remember him playing a white SG Custom.
Yeah, and I don't. An SG Custom, I just question at what point he went to that English builder. You know? Yeah,
I have no
from what I
idea.
heard, that they actually, a lot of those weren't Gibsons.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I know he was always
sure somebody will know.
goofing with the pickup set. Please help us, viewers.
Well, the fact is that there are some guys like Bollinger who's made SGs that are a bit thicker.
Yeah.
If the body were a bit thicker, it wouldn't weigh all that much more.
Right.
Yeah.
It would be a better guitar, and the neck joint wouldn't be so weak, and it would have more sustain.
Right.
You could rework it where you had a jack in the side, more like a Les Paul, where you wouldn't rip the end of your body off. You wouldn't have the neck joint so weak, and it would be a little thicker body. You could redesign the SG to be a hell of a lot better guitar, but they haven't done that.
I always thought that just the pure aesthetic of the SG.
Bloomfield
It's the
caused
best.
more people.
Sculpted horns, so
I love it.
satanically.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
rock and roll.
As soon as I remember back in the day, I was like 16, and my dad asked me.
Yeah.
We're looking at some magazine guitar centers. I don't know what the hell it was, and my dad said to me, he goes, "Would you want to play one of these, which was a Les Paul,
Yeah.
or would you want to play an SG?"
Yeah.
And for me, it was all about Sabbath. 14
Totally.
to 20 years old,
Also,
everything.
the
And I
thing
picked the SG. You know?
Bloomfield was playing vintage style music, and he was getting a vintage style sound, and he switched from the Telly to a 54 Les Paul,
Oh, yeah.
and then from that to the 59 Burst.
So who do
He
you
came
think?
to me looking for a Burst, and I couldn't find one in time.
We
Wow.
did this.
He traded with Dan Earlywine. He traded in his
That's right.
54 and a little bit of cash, and he got the Burst. But
We had this conversation, and you said that you said that you thought that Bloomfield was the one to inspire more people with the
Bloomfield
Burst
was
than Page
the most important person.
over Jimmy Page. I remember having this
Oh,
conversation.
way more important.
At the time.
Bloomfield at that time
Right.
is the one.
Right.
He never had a real hit record. The best record he ever did was Electric Flag, and that still wasn't a huge #1 seller, but it's still a classic. And his recordings with Butterfield are great. But guitar players, tens of thousands of guitar players listened to what he did, and they wanted a guitar that could do that kind of stuff. And he popularized the whole idea of playing vintage guitars, because otherwise Beach Boys and Ventures, they used new guitars.
Right.
And they wanted twang. They were not looking for Bloomfield's type tone at all. For that R&B tone, Bloomfield was a master. But the Les Paul became popular immediately when he started using the 54. And during the time he was using the 54, players told me that occasionally I'd find a Sunburst, and I said, what about this? No, that's the wrong color. It's the wrong pickups. Those humbucking pickups are sickly sweet, syrupy sounding. They don't have the bite like those good P90s. And that Tune-O-Matic bridge kills sustain. It's not good like the
That's so
wraparound
funny.
bridge. Stud mount.
That's so
I
funny.
can't imagine
And
the
then
shit you've heard over the years,
Within
man.
2 weeks after Bloomfield got a Burst, those
Yeah,
same people denied
right.
ever having said anything of the sort,
That's
and
funny.
they would take their gold top and have the top refinished
Sure.
in Burst, and they'd modify it with humbuckers.
Yeah, we
All right.
said some of those. Yeah.
Yeah, they did that.
Two questions, George. I'm dying to know.
But the
All
other
right.
thing is people they'd call up and they'd say, I want a Les Paul, can you find me one? And then they'd also ask, why is it called a Les Paul? Who or what was that?
Oh,
They didn't know who he even was.
wow.
Who the heck do you know today who plays Les Paul style music on a Les Paul? I had one guy call me up wanting a Les Paul model.
We're getting back to that time where no one knows who Les Paul is, right?
Well, how
Sadly.
many people do you know who play his style music?
No, I mean it's
The
ancient.
Les
yeah.
Paul guitar, even in its day, wasn't used by very many people who played his style
Right.
of music.
Right.
And a lot of people when I was first there at the University of Chicago, there were people who were into Beach Boys and Ventures, and they didn't want a Les Paul because they said that A, the guitar was too heavy, and B, it was designed for somebody whose arm had been broken and set like this, so that unless you had a crooked type arm or you were out of balance, it wasn't going to be comfortable.
Right.
Because Les did have, he had that elbow that was damaged, and he had to set it so that his elbow didn't flex. for
Terrible.
him.
All right, two questions, George. One, I'm dying to know. I've been meaning to ask you this for fucking ever. Okay, you've had a storefront for fucking 53 years. Well, 52 years, right?
Yeah, it's, 50,
Okay.
52 and 3 months.
It's been 3 months, And all that time, the most unbelievable walk-in you've ever had.
I'm not sure You're talking about person or instrument?
Yeah, it's Greggy Voros
Themselves
about
don't
17
walk
years
in,
ago.
They get walked in.
I'm not talking about some hot blonde. I'm talking about a guitar that came in that you could purchase.
Well, I'm hard pressed to come up with one, but there's been things that brought a lot of money, like Gibson Explorers, except that a lot of those were back in the day when, if they were only now, and I knew, or if I only knew then what they'd be worth later, like I got an Explorer early on and sold it to Rick Derringer for $1,250.
That's right.
And that was a huge score at the time.
Oh.
And but you know, I've had D45s come in. I've had 0045s come in. The one I just bought, that the 1933 D28 is a great guitar, but that was not a random walk-in. That's something I've been corresponding with the guy for a month.
Yeah.
So
Incredible guitar.
you know,
So-
we've had some incredible instruments.
Keep digging. Come on, give me some. I know some crazy shit. You got a story in there. I know you do.
There's a bunch
Yeah,
of
one of the craziest is it's not the most expensive instrument, but I have a absolutely beautiful condition, 1920 Vega tubaphone style number 3 5-string with an 11.5-inch head diameter, a 27-inch scale, and that's my favorite among the Vega banjos. And a woman came in with it for an appraisal. She was with her husband. It was not set up in very good playing order, but the instrument's pristine, beautiful condition. It just needed some minor setup. But I appraised it for $3,500 at the time. And I commented to her that it was a really fine banjo, and it just happens that I really like that model, and it's just the size, because it's a rare, the 11.5-inch head diameters and 27 scale combination is quite rare,
Right.
and it's something that I really like. And she didn't have it set up in playing order really at all, hardly, so she wasn't getting much use out of it. Anyway, she got the appraisal and thanked me, and then went out in the showroom for a while. I was talking with her husband, and she came back to me and said that she and her husband had prayed about it, and Jesus spoke to her and told her that she should give me that banjo.
Wow.
And nobody has ever done that for me.
Wow.
And I told her that I didn't feel good about just simply taking it and giving her nothing in return. I said that I know that you said that you'd been trying to play the banjo in your church,
Sure.
and that this one hadn't suited you. I said that I do have some other banjos that might suit you, and I showed her a Vega VIP model that we had priced at $1,500, and it was set up very well, and she played it, and it actually, she liked it. And it was better suited to type music she was doing. The banjo that I got from her, even with setup, would never have suited the kind of music she wanted to do.
Right.
So I said, well, you know, would it be okay with you if I were to give you this banjo?
Right.
But I said, no, I'll admit that I'm not asking as much for this banjo, but I just don't feel right about taking your banjo and giving you nothing, especially when you want to play banjo.
Right.
Now, that's actually more meaningful to me than almost any of the things that I got that might be worth a ton of money.
Right.
I still have that banjo,
Right.
and I won't ever sell it.
That's awesome.
But it's a really neat banjo. I like the banjo, but it's something that emotionally was really something rather special.
That's awesome, man. How long ago was that?
That's been close to 15 years.
Do you remember
now.
the lady's name?
It was. We were still on Broadway.
Okay.
At 410 Broadway.
You remember her
we
name?
moved
man?
away from there, June of 2013.
So it has to.
And that was probably at least 3 years before that,
Okay.
if not maybe a little more. But it's somewhere 13 to 15 years ago, but I obviously still have the banjo.
We got to find out her name so we can give her a shout out. Do you remember it?
Unfortunately, I don't have it.
Yeah.
I don't remember her name. We did correspond a couple of times afterward, but I've lost touch with her. I don't remember her
Very
name
cool though,
now.
man. That's very cool.
But it was, yeah, I've never had one given to me like
Right.
that.
Well, you before I started this camera rolling, we were talking and you said something really interesting. You said, in a very unusual for you type situation, you have been the store's best customer lately. You personally.
Well, yeah, in the past 30 days, I've gotten three. Let's see, I got the 1927 L5, the 1933 D28.
Mm-hmm.
I got a 2005 Randy Lucas guitar. I got a Vega banjo with an 11.5 diameter and a 28.5 scale. I got a 1925 style 4 master tone banjo, and just a couple of days ago I decided that Bacon banjo mandolin down there, you know, isn't so expensive, but that
You
nobody
bought it.
wants, but it's really, really neat, and it's beautiful condition, and it's very rare, and it actually sounds good, and it's worth more to me than we have priced out, so I'm going to keep it too.
Your collection is phenomenal. You have incredible instruments. You've been collecting for a long time. You don't usually when you buy one, it's for keeps, and I get that. I always thought this was interesting because I find myself selling some instruments too.
Yeah.
You know, and moving instruments around. I think anybody that's going to sell instruments has to have a collection. If you get or a certain collection, you know. So I'm saying, like, if you have a 335 or a Strat or a Les Paul or whatever, right? That's cool, but that's one of the things that I always I find funny, especially from dudes selling guitars.
Sure.
It's like, what are you selling here? It's a 335, 65 grand, whatever it might be, or a Burst, 400 grand. Cool. What are you playing these days?
Right.
What are you playing these days?
Yeah.
Are you into it, or are you a salesperson? Are you
Right.
really into it? What's your collection look like?
Right. You want to know about what they got going on?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Well, the ones that I just picked up in the past 30 days are all guitars that inspire me.
That's right.
I didn't get them to sell, and their resale value was not the primary consideration, because what they're doing is for the rest of my life they're just tying up that much cash.
Yeah.
They're not going to change my standard of living except maybe to reduce it,
Right.
because I'm tying up money.
Right.
I'm not buying them for resale. And
No,
what
you got real
happens to
love.
me
That's
after I'm dead and gone or have senile dementia, so I don't know what's going on, they're not going to monetarily benefit me to have them.
Okay.
I'm buying them because these particular ones inspire me. So it's not some things in my collection I didn't get to play. I got them to fill a gap in the collection where it is historically significant, and it's really important and neat.
That's what I'm waiting on,
I've been
George.
buying lately, for the most part, have been things that are really interesting, but also sound really great.
That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for another 15 years when I can walk up to you and say, "What are you doing with all my guitars, George?"
Yeah. So I remember years ago. I remember
you
years
returned them,
ago.
borrowed them a couple of years back.
I asked you a long time ago. I remember. I mean, you've had everything. I mean, shit. Nobody in this world's done this more than you.
No.
Is there one guitar? I remember asking you, and I remember your answer. I'm going to see how consistent you are. Is there one guitar you've always wanted but could never find?
There really isn't much there that I have always wanted and never could find. There are some that I wished I'd kept.
Sure. Well, we all have
that I
that
regret
problem.
having sold.
Yeah.
But if I wanted a D45, heck, in 1976, I had 6 of them.
Right.
And if I wanted a lower-signed L5, I had one. That was the 4th guitar I ever owned.
Right.
I've had darn near everything that I've ever truly wanted in a guitar. But some of them I was dumb enough to sell.
Right.
And
But you had to have
I
a
wish
business.
that I had kept.
And that was part of making your business, though, man.
But yeah, if I'd kept all of them,
Yeah, you'd be broke.
Have you ever done a show on George's collection?
No, but I should.
Right.
I mean, it'd be amazing.
That'd be cool. Because you know what's great about your collection is that it has some super big money instruments in there, some super.
Right.
But it's not all that. You have some prototypes
on.
No, and that's what I love about your collection. It's not all whatever it might be, whatever most people would think would be part of a collection. There's prototypes from Guild that you designed. There's all sorts of Tacoma.
Right.
Oh my God, all sorts of really cool. Probably one of the best
Tacoma
acoustics.
guitar sounds really good. I want to get them back in production.
Yeah.
Right.
Boy, that acoustic you just showed me the other day, that Randy Lucas thing was fucking
It's a
killer.
very good guitar.
That was fucking nice, man.
But
What
this
is that
L5
thing?
that I just got, the 27 L5, I'm quite curious to see how you'd react
I'm
to
not.
it.
I
You
can't
won't like
play
the
it.
feel of the neck.
I'm not a
but it
good enough
sounds
guitar player to
good.
play a fucking arch top. One of these days, I'm
Is,
getting out there.
is responsive in ways that arch tops typically aren't. You will be able to play it. Don't treat it like an arch top. Just
Right.
treat it like a guitar.
Good, and no one puts some pickups on it.
We get
Well, all
Ranger
you
Doug
gotta
in
do,
here. Ranger
just
Doug
close
would.
your eyes and play it. And don't look at it so you don't notice that it's an arch top. And
Yes.
see what it inspires you
Right.
to do. It is a really, really good
Right.
guitar. It's not just a good arch top guitar. It doesn't sound like a typical arch top. It's got much more versatility.
Anybody who's made it this far in this video is dying to know the answer to this question, and I know you're sick of this question, George, and I apologize before I even ask it. But we've all seen what's happened with the insanity of COVID prices. I mean, it reminds me of 2007 when the price of all guitars tripled overnight when they got on the cover of Forbes magazine. Remember? It was the bubble, right? We always call it the bubble, right? Mm-hmm. Now we're in another bubble, and like the question, hello, love, how you doing?
Sorry.
Yeah, the question I'm dying to know, and I know nobody knows this shit more than you guys right here. Like, what's gonna happen? Could this possibly sustain? Why is a fucking Les Paul Jr. 15 grand right now? And can it possibly
Really,
sustain?
15?
No, it's nuts, man.
Depending on
It's
the condition,
nuts,
right?
depending on the
And
condition,
it's,
right?
I know if it's a TV, it's up there.
Yeah.
The fact is, I think that it's not a COVID thing. It's something different. COVID is perhaps masking what's really going on. But there's a major demographic shift in the market
Right.
now. If it was just COVID, that bump might not last more than a year
Right.
of stimulating the market. But in the past, the market was mostly driven by people having their midlife crisis, and a lot of that was baby boomers, and they've already gone through that, and they're done with that. They're getting old enough to be retiring or downsizing or just dealing with their estate executors. But we have the younger baby boomers. Baby boomers, by definition, are birthdays 1946 through about 1963. And I think that's too long a period. The ones born from about 46 through about 55 or so, those people typically are downsizing or simply getting senile dementia or dying.
Right.
They're not buying. But the younger ones, born say from 57 through 63, they're still buying quite actively. I'm a bit of an anomaly there because I was born in 45. August of 45, August 21st, 1945 is my birthday. I don't know why I said 46. I get fixated on that's the definition of baby boomer, but by definition, I'm a few months too old to be a baby boomer, but
So
I'm
what's
still
that?
actively buying.
Yeah.
So what are
that
you? What's
called?
what's pre-boomer? What's before
Right.
boomer?
I don't know what the heck they'd call it, but
Right.
I'm
We're
weird anyway.
two babies.
But
Yeah,
the fact is that the millennials now are buying. millennials, by definition, started to be born around 1980, which that means 1980 was 42 years ago. They are doing just what the baby boomers did in the mid-80s, buying little red sports cars, sporting equipment, and guitars.
Right.
And they're doing just what happened with the baby boomers, which really saved the ass of major companies like Martin, Fender, and Gibson, which were all on the brink of total collapse. By the mid-80s, those companies were, Fender got sold cheap, Gibson got sold for $5 million with no money down and just an IOU. Martin, the bank foreclosed, and they had to find a new bank, which put them on a short leash. And one of the things they had to do with the short leash, they had to get rid of Frank Martin as company president. But the market was terrible. But the baby boomers came back and had a midlife crisis, and they bought. But now, right now, what do we have? An interesting situation. The younger baby boomers are still buying. The millennials have gone on a buying spree, and that is what's fueling a lot of the bubble that you see as a bubble, but it's not really necessarily a bubble. It is a new wave of people very interested in guitars. And the baby boomers' children, Generation X, were, for the most part, not that excited about guitars, or if they were, it was heavy metal.
Right.
And that did not help Martin, Fender, Gibson, Gretsch at all. Gibson and Fender never did make a heavy metal guitar that really appealed the way Jackson's or Charvel's.
I never thought of that, but that's a fact. Right.
The biggest selling guitar in America in the mid-80s was Kramer. But Jackson made a better guitar. Grover Jackson made an ultimate heavy metal guitar. And ESP and Ibanez also really understood heavy metal. They made good heavy metal guitars, but that was stuff that didn't help Fender or Gibson much at all.
Right.
But right now, heavy metal is still alive and well, but the other stuff is too. And we have also a new phenomenon. Children of the millennials are interested in guitars, unlike the children of the baby boomers. And it used to be women were 2 or 3% of the buyers, and now they're 15 or 20%.
Wow.
And that's on top of what the guys are doing. So you have now 3 generations buying, plus 5 times as many women as before.
Oh yeah.
Oh, damn.
So that is one heck of a change. And that is driving the market, plus it's an inflationary economy overall.
Right.
But to say that this is all because of COVID is dead wrong. It's not. It's demographic shift. The market is not in a vacuum for guitars. It's
what a twist.
governed by technology. It's governed by social and demographic trends,
Right.
economic trends, and a lot of that has fallen into place right now. Where just look at what's happening on the art market. It's gone crazy. But guitars are actually a great appeal, that you can buy a guitar, you can not just simply look at it, you can play it, and you can appreciate it visually as a piece of art.
Yes.
It also is something you can hear it.
Yes.
And it gives different sound for each player.
Yes.
You get the same player can play several different guitars, and some may inspire him more than others, even though they're equal quality guitars. But you can take the same guitar and have 12 different people play it, and you're going to get 12 different sets of inspiration as to where it leads them. And different people have different touch, but even though you can hear somebody play it who's better than you are, when you play it yourself, there's a certain feel to it. You can appreciate it tactily, and somebody who doesn't play, they can touch it, but they can't, it doesn't feel alive. When you play it, if you know how to play, it's an interactive thing. It's like a car. You can sit in the back seat and somebody can drive you around in a sedan, and it doesn't feel much different than a Chevrolet versus something else. But you can sit in the passenger seat, you get a bit more feel, but it's only when you get behind the wheel and drive it yourself that you know if it feels alive.
Damn.
If it and you become bonded like one. But with the guitar, so you can try all the ideas and nothing bad happens. You may try something and it doesn't work, but nobody gets hurt, nobody dies. You get behind the wheel of a car that inspires you, and you get behind the wheel of a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or an M5 BMW. Just about everything it inspires you to try is not street legal. So either you get flashing blue lights and a heavy fine, or if you try something that's too much for you, you have an accident. You may total the car, you might kill yourself, or you might hit somebody and take out a family of 6 while you're at it. But the guitar, it's safe. You can do all these things.
George, you're off on a tangent.
Well, you know what? There's a lot of truth.
The
I mean, it's
ultimate
true
piece
what
of
you.
art.
It is.
It's true what you said, and you know, and we noticed this before COVID too. There was incredible demand for instruments.
Yes.
Incredible. I mean, I had really come to think of it.
Unprecedented.
Oh my God! But this was a year or two before COVID, or maybe even more.
Yeah,
I mean,
COVID is not the cause of this bubble.
No, I agree. No, I agree.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
And actually, in many ways, you know, I'm not known to be an optimist. Usually my standard line is things could be worse and give it a little time, they probably will be. And then I point out that that means the optimists are the people who they bet the ranch all the time, and then, you know, they're going to go bankrupt soon enough because they're going to make a mistake and be too optimistic. I'm prepared, and when half the time things go better than I expected, so I'm happy more often than they are, because when things go right for the optimists, they don't get any big adrenaline rush because they were expecting it, but half the time things don't go as well, so they get let down more often.
So you're a
than I do.
pessimist by nature.
You're dying right now.
He
You can't
cracks
believe
me up.
this. You can't believe
Produces
this.
more happiness and
Your
better
pessimism produces
profitability.
more happiness.
Yeah.
Because
That's shit we always talk
Go
about.
better than expected,
It's
and I
that,
make profit.
Right.
And I don't lose my
That
ass when
Hindu
things don't go
thing.
well.
It's true.
But the point is, what's going on now is likely to last a heck of a lot longer than any bump you'd get
Right.
from demand, pent-up demand due
Right.
to COVID.
Right. Okay, tell these sweet people, I got 60-some thousand subscribers here. Tell them, in your very educated opinion, after studying this market for so long, I want both you guys on this one. And who's this sweet woman?
Cheryl.
Hi,
Hi.
Cheryl. She's and you're with.
I'm a photographer. I'm the visual artist of all these beautiful instruments.
Okay, good.
Not all of them, but a many of them.
So, all right, give these guys, because everyone wants to know a hot tip. Give me a hot tip on something that these people can buy that's going to go way up in value. Give me something. What do you got? And I want to know all you guys.
61 SG-shaped Les Paul with PAFs.
That's it.
That's it, man. That's it for me. I can't, for the life of me, figure out why they're priced the way they are, and everything else with PAFs from that time period is literally 5, 6, 10, 20 times more.
Right.
Think about it. It has PAFs in it. Real deal. 61.
Well, no.
62 is mixed patent number PAF 63.
Yeah,
but 61 you got PAFs.
The others are not 5 times more from 61.
Not from 61. I'm saying instruments that have PAFs in it. Real PAFs, solid instruments. From 19... What?
Of the same year.
No, not same
as-
years. Well, point to a different instrument. Here's what I'm getting at. A 61 Les Paul, top buck, nowadays, what is it, 17.5? That's maybe 20, I don't know.
Well,
Probably
what
a
you're
bit
up
more.
against is that
A
the
little more,
basic
yeah.
models
25
that
on
were
a good
popular.
day. On a
The
good day.
basic models that were popular in 1970 are still the same ones that are the classics today.
Yeah.
So that there's not a whole lot of just sleepers that are likely to go dramatically up that
Do
are
you-
not already known.
Do you think that a 335, 58, 59, 63, 35, and the prices where they stand right now, do you think that'll get closer in the next 5 or 10 years to where bursts are, or maybe even half of what a burst would be from the same period?
I think probably not.
You don't think so? Even though there are fewer 335s than bursts.
Well, 335 cost more new than the burst, but I think that they're not going. I think the bursts have been highly inflated, and that the 335s may have more room to go up.
Fact.
But I think it'll take, so far as, you know, some bursts have sold for over 500 for the really, really curly ones. And do I think that any 335s are going to get to that kind of point? And have to say inflation adjusted, because after all, inflation could change that. You know, like I have now over 300 trillion Zimbabwe dollars in my desk.
No, I get that. So going back to the point I was making before, it's this.
dollar.
Like I remember, because there was a little bump in the price of 61 SG shaped Les Pauls recently, but I remember for the longest time.
But they haven't gone up to more than they used to be at the height of the bubble.
Agreed. But here's where I'm getting at. Like if you had, even if you went back like 5 years ago, you can find one for about 15, 16.
Right.
Agreed. 14 to 16 was the price about a handful of years ago. Okay. Even 4 to 6 years ago, whatever it might be, the PAFs in that instrument are half the value.
Right.
You can't make that claim for any other instrument.
Right.
At that price point. A $15,000 instrument,
what
the
about
two
the
pickups are $7,500.
You can for an ES
175.
An ES 175. There you go.
Exactly.
There you go. There you go. Good call.
Same
Yeah,
boat
but
there.
no one is really playing ES 175s, but 335s are a different story. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Right.
That's kind of where I'm at.
I think the only reason people ever buy 175 is for the pickups.
Yeah,
right?
that's it.
That's
why there's so many out there.
The
Yeah.
guitar isn't really that valuable.
I do know people who want a 175 because they want to play jazz, but that's they're in the minority.
I'm also a Steve Howe freak, and I try to love him, but I can't get with him, man.
If there were a real sleeper that I thought was going to triple in value in the coming 3 years,
This is what
you
we're
know
waiting
what I'd
for.
be doing?
Bring it, George.
I'd be buying them and socking them away.
I see.
And
Oh, is
am
that
I
what you
doing
did
that?
last
The
week?
answer is
That's
no.
what-
No, it's
okay.
not what I did in the past week. I think when I bought on those guitars, I actually paid pretty well for it. I did not get them cheap. I paid an awful lot of money for that Martin guitar, and the octave mandolin I bought was a consignment that I paid. I only got 15% off on that.
Top buck.
And the
Top buck.
Top
George's
buck.
paying top buck for guitars. It's true.
Everyone's paying top
for
buck.
the ones that I wanted that I kept,
Everyone.
I pretty
Even
much
George.
paid retail to get them.
Respect. I get that. That's
So
that's.
there's
I love
not.
that.
Everybody's
I
paying
did not
$10.
buy them with the
I love
thought that they were going to make me a big profit.
Right.
Because
It's not for
if
that.
if I have no intention of selling them,
Right. It's not
why
for
would
that.
I? What's my financial incentive to buy
Okay,
them?
what
He's
about
going
this?
to write
What
it
about
down.
this? Let me twist it. What if it wasn't vintage?
Well, the fact is that I bought that Randy Lucas guitar, which was a 2005 guitar, because I thought it was just fabulous.
And it is.
It is a wonderful guitar, and he's retired from building right now, but I've been trying to talk to him about getting back into it, because he retired only because he said that he was allergic to the nitro lacquer. I said, don't use nitro lacquer, use varnish, use French polish, use something else.
That's a terrible curse for a guitar builder.
I know.
Right?
But
Jeez.
you don't have to quit because you're allergic to nitro. Nitro's not even the best acoustic finish anyway.
That guitar is fucking magical.
It
That
is,
thing is
but
great.
the Martin I just got, and the L5, the 27 L5 for me are even more magical.
Right.
But that Lucas is really, 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 really good. And
You should sell that to me.
It has its
Don't you think?
own
Homeskoolers?
personality. That Lucas is a fabulous guitar, and
Sure, George, I'll
wanted
take it.
But it's
Twist my arm, dude.
there are. I really am hard pressed to tell you of something that you can buy right now that is likely to
What
go
about you,
way
Greg?
up in the coming
New
3 to
shit.
5 years.
That's gonna be something. Down the
New
road.
instruments.
Hot tip for the homeschoolers. We need it.
I think
Can
we should
anybody
buy
chime in,
an
Joel?
electric or whatever.
Chime in, Joel. Come on, what do you got?
I got
Nothing?
Yeah, you know. All right, here's one. And I'm not just saying this because we have a deal with Martin on it. Sinker mahogany Martins.
Okay.
That's a big one. That's a big
You
one.
think those are going to keep going up?
I think there's so much demand, and that's been the case for a number of years. It's unbelievable demand
Right.
for these instruments, and very specific to Sinker Mahogany Martins, our designs. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's nothing like I've ever seen. We talked about this, George. That
If they run out of sinker wood, those things are sure enough to go up.
oh yeah.
This lady has to go. She wants to say bye to you,
reason
George.
Martin's
Go ahead.
management changes such the quality goes down, then Martin's used guitars are going to go way up. And right now, there's managerial change going on at Martin.
What about this? Well, you got to say bye to him, right? You're dying to get out of here, aren't you?
I was just coming in to say goodbye to everyone.
right.
I really appreciate
Did
being
you
here.
finish
fun, right?
photographing all of those?
Those 5, I did 5 today. I was almost snuck those 2 off your table and brought them up to
good.
photograph.
This is what you get.
I'll come back next.
I got another bombshell question. You ready for it?
They're not
Let's
going
hear it.
anywhere.
All right.
I know. I figured there was.
Here's one, George. Let's go the other way. What's a guitar you should that you might have in your collection now that you could drop like a hot potato? Because they couldn't possibly sustain.
I don't know that it's anything that's just going to turn to crap.
Yes.
I think it's been very difficult to predict in advance what prices are going to do long term, but I feel like the market demographics tell me that this market's going to stay strong for another decade or more.
Good.
You know what I don't think
Even though
will,
I can't get tubes or strings, anything anymore.
You know what's going to go. You know what I think what hopefully goes away pretty soon is a zillion people building bolt-on Strat and telecopies,
Right.
and some people, say they do it
Well,
a
I've
little bit
never
better.
called those an investment.
No, it's the last one holding it or whatever it might be. But I hope that there's a time where that stops being a fad. You know what I mean?
Last
Especially
one holding it.
and
That's
yeah,
gonna
it's
be
the last
the
one
title.
holding it, bro.
That's the
More
title of the
Kelly
video.
clones.
No, man, and especially when the prices get to a point where they touch on what you can damn near get an original one for.
That's right,
You know,
dude.
I mean, even at half, there has to be some sort of percentage to it. You know, I mean,
I feel quite strongly that the world does not need Telly or Strat
Agreed.
clones or
Agreed.
Les Paul clones.
agreed.
And
I'm
when I
just tired of
design
seeing
things, I very deliberately do not design clones of anything else. I want to have some original ideas. There should be a reason for it to exist.
Let me ask you this, George. You think a person that builds a Telly copy, I'm going to say copy because that's what they are, man.
Right.
A Telly and a Strat copy, would you call those guys luthiers?
No.
Great question.
Agreed.
Great question.
Especially since
Agreed.
most of them don't even
Great
build those.
question.
They buy a neck,
Agreed.
they
Great
buy a
question.
body,
Agreed.
they buy a CNC body and a CNC neck, and they do a little bit of customizing on it,
Agreed.
and they sport some finish on it, and they may relic it, but they didn't even build it. They're an assembler. It's like these guys who do banjos who buy the neck, buy the rim, buy the resonator, buy the metal hardware, and they may have the inlay cut to their specs,
Right.
but they didn't even make it. Then they get all these parts that are subcontractor parts, they bolt it together, and they say they're a banjo builder. They're not.
Agreed.
I love what you said a while back when we were talking about, because Greg kind of, the head of repair, of course. When you guys get a lot of new instruments by different new builders sent here for you guys to evaluate, right?
Right.
And like,
Oh, the frets?
and you guys
Yeah.
really have to sort of go through these things and sort of just give your honest opinion, right? And like, I mean, looking at the
Very few of them inspire me enough to want to deal in them.
right,
Right.
right.
We sell a lot of Martins. A lot of them are custom shop,
Mm-hmm.
which I design, along with input from others, but I've had a significant impact there. We do Fender standard line and
Okay.
Fender custom, and
New
designing
builder.
our Fender customs is a team effort here. But we do order things that are not necessarily clones of what
Right.
everybody else is
Right,
doing.
right.
We want to have some that have a reason for existence.
I need 2 names from both you guys. This is, and Joel, please, don't be so quiet back there. Hi, Two names, if you're comfortable with this. New builders. I want to hear yours, two names, and you, Greggy. That need these new guys. That work has truly impressed you.
All right, I got one right off the top of my head.
Start. You start. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Who's gonna say it first?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Hugh Hansen as far as mandolins.
Yes.
I think he's killing it. I think, I've worked with Hugh for a long time while he worked for you. George, of course, he was a co-worker of mine for a number of years. He's a monster restoration guy. Hugh's incredible, and I've seen a lot of his instruments.
Highly respected.
Yeah, oh God,
His work is
mandolin,
really
phenomenal.
fine.
Phenomenal.
He worked here for a while, didn't he, George?
Paul Newsom builds really good mandolins.
Agreed. Agreed. Paul Newsom's another one. Agreed.
Alexander Svistanov.
Svistanov is I have a lot of respect for him because what he does is different.
He does
So-
it different, and they're really good.
And they're really good. So especially in that mandolin world, it's my Mona Lisa's better than yours. Everyone builds the
His
same design.
archtop
in that way.
guitars are really good.
They're great, and even his mandolins are different. They're not F5 bodies.
No, they're
Hey,
not.
Peter.
They're very distinctively not a clone.
Right.
They have an F5 body shape, but everything else is different, and they don't look anything like an F5 because they're built more like a violin.
This is gold right here, man.
this is
But there are
great,
some
man.
very
Great,
good
yeah.
independent luthiers. Kim Walker is very good.
Kim Walker's great.
But I don't see much of his
No.
stuff. He's not really new.
And he's not.
Insane.
I don't know how active he is. I'm just talking about the dudes that are active right now.
Well, he's
I
still
think they're on
building,
top of their
but
game.
he
And
gets-
I yeah.
Monteleone is active, but he's only making at most one instrument a month, and he's getting very high prices
Yeah.
to the point where most of them are bought for display rather than play.
Yeah.
Wow. Give me a couple more. What else?
Guitars
What
are
else?
$100,000,
Here's another one.
and
Yeah.
they
Whole
are
beer.
bought by art patrons. They're not really being played by musicians.
No. David had one. David Kreisel, he's the house butcher.
main butcher.
Dynamite repair guy. Love David. Paul Beard. Paul Beard does an
Yeah.
amazing job.
Yeah.
He's a great
He's not
example of
really a
like
new
the
builder.
fighters.
No, not new, but
But
a
he
fairly
makes new instruments.
Yeah, and a
He's
fairly
not
small
new
operation.
To the scene, but it's a small operation, and his resonator guitars are some of the absolute best resonator guitars ever made in the
I got
history
the
of the
question.
instrument.
This is the question. This is the fucking question. Along this line, on this topic.
Yep.
When you see guys sending new shit in, these builders, yeah? When it's a fail, when you look at it and you go, no. What are some of the mistakes that these people who don't get it are making?
Fretwork, yeah. Fretwork's good. Fretwork finish. Fretwork finish, playability. And what I think we did a video before, and I was talking about fret ends,
Right.
and I was talking about mangled looking fret ends, and,
Right.
and I say that I always tell folks that you could see this in broad daylight. What about the areas of the instrument that you can't see?
Right.
I wonder what that looks like.
Right.
If people weren't mindful enough to do something that's staring you right in the face, to
Right.
manicure, to make it look nice, I wonder what that
Right.
dovetail joint looks like.
Sure.
It probably doesn't look
right
right.
down to it. The number one thing on quality of sound
Yeah.
is design.
Right.
If you don't have a good design,
Right.
it doesn't matter how good your workmanship or your materials
That's
are.
it.
If it's a bad
Right.
design, it won't fly.
That's it.
The other thing I noticed is years back, like if you went back like 15 years and I was looking at instruments, somebody comes in with an instrument, it was really obvious that they didn't have access to good instruments. And the reason they might have got into it was to build a good one.
Right.
But because they never held a great instrument to compare it to, a lot of folks just don't know why it's not very good. It's kind of like if you live in a, if you live in a certain place and the best guitar that they have is an $850 flat top, that's the king of the jungle right there. You know what I mean? And if you don't compare it to anything else, I'm sure it sounds fine.
Right.
Once you compare it to something else, that's when it really you could see the difference. So, but
Right.
15 years ago, there was folks building instruments, and you can tell from a mandolin builder, you've never held a lure.
Right.
You can tell because you call it a lure copy.
But you
it's not.
also have a lot of individual builders who want so desperately to be creative
Right.
that they deliberately make something that is totally unlike anything previous. They don't have respect for the traditional
Right.
designs that made great instruments, and they're so busy trying to be different that different. You have to know what you can do different that still
But
works.
But I respect that more. That's why I have tremendous respect for Jimmy D'Aquisto. Jimmy D'Aquisto could have taken over from the old man D'Angelico and built his designs until the day he died.
Right.
And he would have been fine, but he didn't. He wanted to go completely different, the avant-garde, the different style.
Right.
And that's amazing to me. I thought that was a big, bold move for a person
but
like
he
that to do.
understood the tradition.
Oh, of course.
And he
great
had
instruments in his
respect
hand.
for the
Good point.
tradition.
Yeah, good point.
He knew, but see, there's some of these guys who never bothered to learn the traditional.
Truth, yeah.
Immediately struck out. It's just like Jose Ramirez designed some steel string flat top guitars. This was like almost 30 years ago. They were terrible. And I asked him if he had ever examined any old Martins or Gibsons. And he said, why should he? Ramirez is the finest guitar in the world.
Boy.
Why would he need to look at an inferior American guitar?
Okay. All right. Okay. So now
His steel string guitars just were terrible.
he didn't get it.
And so I'm not claiming you have to copy the originals. But you should understand what makes them tick.
That goes for music
And,
too.
too many of the luthiers who are starting out now, it's just like you go to the Roberto Venn school and they don't teach you anything traditional at all. The founder of the school had goofus ideas, and they teach you that, and you don't learn how to make a real good sounding guitar. You learn how to make his design.
In the whole history of all this shit, that's a bit of an obtuse question, but like, best workmanship you've ever seen on any instrument?
Collins.
No shit.
Collins, man.
I don't know that.
Collins. Taylor's
I
great,
think that-
but
Not Taylor, Zeidler.
Zeidler. Okay.
Zeidler's instruments had gorgeous workmanship.
What the fuck is a
cosmetically,
Zeidler?
Cosmetic.
but they do not
Never even
sound
heard
of
good.
it.
Yeah, leave it to him.
No.
Yeah,
What's a
That was the best-
Zeidler?
No, it's true.
John Zeidler, he was a luthier in the, 90s, 2000s?
Yeah.
something like
Wow.
I'm very familiar with Zeidler's work, but they don't sound very good.
No.
And so, cosmetic workmanship, Zeidler was superlative. But when it comes down to sound as a musical instrument, they were not that great.
100% agree.
And
So what good is it?
But you're saying
Randy
fit-
Lewis'
yeah, we're-
workmanship
right,
is beautiful. Zeidler could do terrific miter joints, very neat and clean, but it still comes down to basic design wasn't that great.
No.
The workmanship was beautiful, but the design was not. And his materials were great. It was structurally great workmanship, but when the design isn't quite right, they don't perform.
They're a hell of a
And
line.
you know, if you're in the Indianapolis 500,
Yep.
they don't give you any extra points for beautiful workmanship. They don't give a
Right.
crap about beautiful workmanship. It better be structurally strong enough to perform during the race. It has to have the right design. If the design isn't quite right, you don't win the race.
So you're throwing out Collings
They're clean.
They're clean,
I'm talking
but
about
they don't
all
sound like
time.
Old Martin.
all time.
As far as aesthetics or both sound
Just
and
fucking holy shit workmanship.
well, listen, if I'm looking at it from like a foot away,
Right.
1 feet away, a brand new Collings, you'd be hard pressed to find one joint on it that's even off by a 64th. Everything is just it's like on. Now, I guess that should be that's a little bit different because everyone is capable of
It's
doing that
clean
now.
like a mechanical drawing.
Agreed. So if you
If
go
you
back,
want to
right.
have a mechanical drawing of a human face, you can make everything absolutely symmetrical, absolutely perfect, and
Yeah.
you know what? It looks like an android.
No, I get it. So I would say that it would have to be time. It would have to be like the time period.
Okay.
So like nowadays,
Stradivarius and Guarneri's,
right.
you can see some chisel marks in a Del Jesu Guarneri, but oh, they just have character. It's
Right.
like a Van Gogh painting. It's not like a Dutch Masters where you can see a still life and you have a fly that's sitting on the fruit,
That's the
and
good
you can
stuff,
see
yeah.
the veins and the wings
Right.
and whatever. Van Gogh is an impressionist, that,
Right.
but you can look at the Van Gogh portrait that's just this big, a self-portrait of him, and you can see it from 100 feet away, and he jumps at you.
You're a smart kid, George. You know that?
The restaurant where I want to eat is going to close soon.
This is
If I
more
don't get
important,
there,
dude.
they won't feed me.
This is more important, dude.
This is
more
shit.
important,
This
dude.
is for the Asians, man. This is for you. Can always go stuff your face with some fucking Vietnam food anywhere you want.
We've gone
This
beyond
shit.
the attention span of food.
No, this is where it starts getting good.
Tom's fans are sharp, man. Those guys
Well,
are in it for
and
the
also
long haul.
too, you
When
know,
it comes down to clean workmanship, that's not what the greatest instruments are about.
Agreed.
Stromberg guitars and D'Angelico guitars and even pre-World War II Martins are not as neat and clean as some new instruments, some of which are totally uninspiring to play.
Agreed. You know what? I take that back. Because if you were to spend, because if you were to make a claim like that for 1950 or 2020, it's a different thing. There's different. There's machines, there's everything that you just laid out. I get it. So a
Laser
clean
cut
instrument
pearl
going back
work,
70 years ago.
You can get very fancy and very
Different.
precise.
I
but
go,
it doesn't- it's soulless.
Agreed. I go
Even
with,
when you look at it, it's soulless.
I go with Martin.
okay.
A Martin, a bone, a herringbone Martin.
Just
That
in
period.
pure
I-
workmanship.
You know, and you can go back. You can
19th
go back.
century Martins.
You can go back even further, and I get that. But as far as
The Mark
structurally
III.
sound,
Yeah.
stable, the best of the best. The
Better
epic.
than the Gibsons of the period?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, the flat tops. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think from joints you could see when you do
The
neck
best
resets.
sounding Gibson flat tops were probably the L2 of 1929 and 30, the Advanced Jumbo,
AJ, yeah.
and
Early J35?
Lucas.
But even if you take a neck out of an AJ, you're doing a neck reset. And
It's not as neat and clean as a Martin.
nowhere near it. And a Gibson neck comes out so much easier because the dovetail fit is so much
The guitars
different.
that inspire me the most on Gibsons are L2s, Lucas models, and AJs, and old 1920s L5s.
Yeah. Okay.
And the flat tops in Martin, mid 1930s, they're wonderful guitars.
Agreed.
And there's not much else that inspires me that much. I love the Larsons. They're not near as neat and clean, but some of them sound great.
Some of
They're
those
certainly
ornate,
not as neat and clean as a Martin.
some of those ornate banjos from back in the day, the Paramounts and.
Well, the early Fairbanks and Cole, and Fairbanks banjos and early Fairbanks Vega are incredible works of art.
It's like incredible displays of
But
time.
bluegrass banjos,
Yes.
there's
Spent,
nothing
you know
that
what I mean?
beats a good master tone.
Yes.
The
Agreed.
1930s flathead master tones
Right.
are amazing.
All right, you guys, I've tortured you enough. Go eat. Love you, George.
You still didn't get to see the L5.
I want to see it. How was the food, boys?
Oh, dude, Tom,
How was it?
this is
Right.
delicious.
Tell me about this guy, real quick. Give him. We're gonna close with this
David Kreisel?
fine gentleman right there.
David Kreisel
Tell me
has
about
been a
it.
repair guy at
Take a look
Gruhn's.
at the 19
I will.
It's
I will.
very important.
L5.
Yeah, I'll look at it.
Let's end it on that note right there. No, I'm just
That's
kidding.
what I mean,
no,
right
no,
there,
I'm just
man.
kidding. David
Talk about
Kreisel,
me.
he restoration guy up here at Gruhn's. Much respect. He does a lot of flat top work.
Yeah.
A lot of acoustic guitars. This dude, no joke. I love David so much because he walks around like this all the time. We hit up
Love
a
it.
store, bro,
Love it.
and he looks like Texas Chainsaw Massacre out there, man. I
Yeah,
love
dude.
it.
Freaks everybody out.
Everybody. But
Oh, that guy.
yeah,
Old school
David,
worker.
dynamite repair guy.
Yeah, dude. All right, dude. Thank you guys for being on the show, man. All right.
Take it easy, guys.
All right. Bye.